Hi. My first question is about health. Is health similar to manifesting everything else? I mean, if we're...
It's the same.
So if I've been feeling bad for the last month, let's say, body problems, that's a factor of what I've been thinking, feeling?
Always.
Darn.
Well, it's just being on the other side of the rumble strip. We've been saying for a long time that if you've got resistance and you don't know it, don't worry, it will get bigger. Because if you don't know it, then you're going to continue to think the same thoughts that you're thinking that are causing the resistance. And so these things are always true. You are always expanding, and your inner being has always taken the expansion, and your inner being is always calling you toward the expansion. So the more resistance you have along the way, the more your call toward that expansion will show up as resistance in different ways. It's not something to worry about. A lot of people feel negative emotion and don't even know they are. You put up with it because it becomes sort of normal or something that you're hearing or feeling so often. And so when it becomes more acute, like a physical sensation, then sometimes it gets your attention more.
Yeah, it feels like I've been off in the ditch past the rumble strip for a lot of my life, and
that's all right, because the good news is vitality and clarity and well-being are all possible in this moment, and nothing that has ever been before needs to affect this moment, because you have the power to find clarity and alignment and therefore allow energies to flow here and now. Now, the tendency isn't to do it now if you haven't been doing it, and don't be hard on yourself about it. It just means that there's momentum. A belief is just a thought that you continue to think. There's momentum in belief. And so sometimes it takes something that's a little stronger to get your attention, to cause you to make another decision. And those decisions have power in them. So don't freak out about it, and don't beat up on yourself about it. Just say, oh, under these conditions, because of where I am, I'm making a stronger decision. That when I feel the rumble strip, I'm going to do something about it. I'm going to change the thought. I'm going to reach for a thought that feels better. The best thing is to try to get out ahead of it. In other words, when you go to sleep at night, during your slumber, the momentum stops. Your propensity toward a negative thought softens while you sleep, because momentum stops while you sleep. Because while you're sleeping, your attention is not upon it. And so the momentum does subside. Now, when you wake up in the morning, the tendency is to visit with the same people or return to some of the same thoughts. And so you get usually, we started to say up to speed, but what we mean is down to speed with what's been bothering you the day before pretty quick, but you don't need to. So when you go to bed at night, if you would just acknowledge there's going to be a clearing to a certain extent while I sleep, and momentum will stop, and tomorrow it will be easier for me to find things that feel good. And don't take the issues that have been bothering you head on and try to feel good about them, because you won't succeed. Every subject is two subjects, wanted and absence of what is wanted. So if you wake up and try to think positively about the issue that's been bothering you, you won't get past about one positive thought before you remember what it's really like, you see. So you got to change the subject. Get off the subjects that bother you. Get on a subject that is easy to feel good about. Because you could have 10 subjects and 9 of them bother you and one subject feel good, and you could focus upon the one that feels good. And as you focus only upon the one that feels good, or predominantly on the one that feels good, your vibration will raise, and before you know it, you're going to have a different vantage point about everything. So just be easy about it. Just be easy about it.
Even about the value of loving myself. If I didn't know how to do that, I forget that subject and look at something else?
Well, almost no one really knows how to love themselves, because you've been running around trying to find other people to love you. Standing in your head in all kinds of different ways. If I'm like this, do you like me? If I'm like this, do you like me? If I give you this, will you like me? If I'm like this, will you like me? And so you kind of lose track of who you are, because the more you're looking to others to love you, the more you're not in sync with who you are. We just said to you, don't take the biggest issue and try to make that one work. Take things that are easier and just try to become lighthearted about things. Look at things that are easier. Don't take life so seriously, you see. And don't watch television anymore. There's a lot to rail against there, isn't there? Esther gets up, she meditates, she dances to music, she gets tuned in, tapped in, turned on. She writes focus wheels. She acknowledges that everything is really, really good. And then, just to catch up, she turns on the television and forgets everything good in her life. You just got to decide, do I want to feel good or not? And if you want to feel good, do the things that feel good. It's that simple.
Okay.
And don't beat up on yourself if you miserably fail. That's step 5.
Yeah, I'm good at beating up on myself, but I have to change that pattern by getting off it and enjoying what
Well, you know what that means. You beat up on yourself. Do you know why? You beat up on yourself because you were born to be an uplifter, and that's what you mean to do. You were born to feel good. You were born to be of advantage to others. You were born to make a positive difference in the world. And your inner being sees you as doing and having done all of that. So when you choose to focus on yourself in some other way, that's the first and strongest way that you will cause tension between you and your inner being, because the opinion of you in that moment is so off kilter from what your inner being knows that you will feel terrible in any thought that even comes anywhere near that. You see what we're getting at? Mm-hmm. So cut it out. You can't go cold turkey on anything. Law of attraction won't let you. Law of attraction won't let you all of a sudden begin to think different thoughts. Law of attraction is going to keep dishing up thoughts that you've usually been thinking. You have to wake up fresh enough and sure enough that you want to feel good, that you're willing just to look in the direction of what feels good. Esther has been at this for so long, and we've been flowing through her for a very long time. And sometimes things just happen that get your attention, that don't feel good when they get your attention. And sometimes you put up with them long enough that they don't feel good when they get your attention, and you get some momentum going and it doesn't feel good. But after a little while, it becomes strong enough that you just make another decision about it, you see. We say to Esther on a really regular basis, would you rather be right or feel good? That's a good thing for you to ask yourself. Would you rather be right or feel good? Would you rather be right that you are a miserable human being?
Feels good to think that. Sometimes, I mean, it feels normal.
Well, thoughts that you are accustomed to thinking do feel normal. Yep. But there are a lot of normal thoughts that don't feel good. But if you've not been paying attention, then the tension becomes more until you're asking a question like you're asking today.
Yeah. It sometimes seems like I don't have feeling desires. I have should desires or desires because of the contrast, but it doesn't seem to be authentic.
Well, here's the thing. Something's going on in life, so you know what you don't want. You're launching a desire, but it's not a desire that you could necessarily articulate, and it's certainly not a desire that has enough momentum that you could recognize it. So as you're launching those desires all day, those desires are gaining momentum. A good description is like it's a gestation period. While those desires are growing, they're becoming more powerful. Law of attraction is bringing cooperative components to them. But if you're not going along for the ride, then your desires are becoming vibrationally different than you are. So you become almost less capable of seeing them or recognizing them. That's why we're encouraging naps. It's why we're encouraging meditation. It's why we're encouraging as much positive distraction as you can find, because you may very well accidentally stumble into the receiving mode if you're not working so hard on beating the drum of trying to fix things. And so as you find yourself in that receiving mode and then something wonderful occurs to you, that's your awareness that at least for that moment you're in the receiving mode. Otherwise, the idea couldn't come. So if you're saying, well, that doesn't happen very often, what we just explained is the reason for it. But more and more, especially now we've had this conversation, it will happen. You will feel your conscious awareness of that. And then as you acknowledge, and this is something that we would like you all to acknowledge, Once a desire has occurred to you and you feel that exhilaration of, ooh, I would like that, you're well along the way to receiving more and more impulses about it to bring it about, you see. It's just a matter, and a lot of people do this. I know what I don't want, I know what I do want. I would so like to have more money, but I don't have enough. And more money would feel good to me, but it's been hard for a long time, and I hardly know anybody that does. And the more you beat the drum of where you are, the more you disallow yourself to be a match to what is gestating and growing in this vortex. It really is that simple. So you have to find some way of hooking in to something that feels good. You don't have to feel good about money, and you don't have to feel good about health, and you don't have to feel good about Democrats or Republicans. You don't have to feel good about anything specific, but you can't feel bad and let the things that you want come to you. So while we say, find one thing that feels good and use it as your reason for being in the receptive mode where all problems will then be solved, most people instead find the one thing, even though there may be many, that make them feel uncomfortable, and they use that as their excuse to deprive themselves from the receptive mode, and then not being in the receptive mode becomes the big problem, you see. It always is. We don't know of anything that anyone wants. A pile of money, a material object, a relationship, a circumstance, an event, everything that you want is because you believe you would feel better in the having of it. And yet, it's a little ironic that so many things that humans think about keep them from being in the place where they can receive the path or the ideas to what they are wanting. And so, we don't know another way to say it other than you have to care about feeling good enough that you find thoughts that feel good. It is that simple. That is the key to living happily ever after that you're looking for. Just find some reason to feel good. And if you can't find a reason to feel good, then take a nap. And when you wake up, look for a reason to feel good. And if you can't find a reason to feel good, take another nap. And when you wake up, look for a reason to feel good. And if you can't find a reason to feel good, take another nap. And pretty soon, within a year or so, when you wake up, you'll find something that is easy to feel good about. And as you begin fixating on that, so that you're feeling good more of the time, then it sort of breaks loose. Sometimes people said, and some of you have experienced it, when you first begin hearing us or something like this, where you're understanding that your thoughts matter, and so you are more deliberately directing your thoughts to better feeling things, then avalanches of things that you've been wanting for a while begin to flow into your experience. Did you have that experience in the beginning? Where just for a little while you believed in your ability of positive focus, and you focused positively, and things did turn around for you at first. And then, after a while, it's not as evident. And we say it's like pulling a rubber band back. When you let go of it, it's going to go pretty far. It's like putting a lot of things in your vortex and then chilling out, and a lot of things are ripe and ready to receive, you see. But you didn't come just to want and then receive, and then want and then receive, and then want and then receive. You didn't come to say, I want $1 million, boom, there it is. You didn't come to say, I want a relationship. Oh, hello, I've been waiting for you for a second. You came because you knew that life would help you choose for yourself, and then you wanted the exhilaration of toning yourself or tuning yourself to the frequency that would allow the cooperation of the universe to yield it to you in this incremental, delicious dance all along the way. You say things, most of you don't mean it, that the joy is in the journey, but the joy really is in the journey, because there's never going to be an ending to what you are desiring, you see. So when you get on the other side of this just a little bit, and you begin to notice that you can set an intention and, to watch how quickly the universe will yield to you the things that you're wanting, it is a wonderful thing to see. Simple things, not big world-changing things, although those are your capabilities as well, but just these everyday things that just make things go better for you. Esther and her friend got off the airport in Minneapolis to change planes, and they were at A gate, and their departing gate was at F gate. And Esther just had a feeling when she saw F. F gate is probably far. F probably means far, far, far away. It's just the impulse that she had when she realized that. And so she looked around, and there was an airport employee sitting on one of those motorized carts. And Esther looked at him and he looked at her, and Esther looked at him and he looked at her. In other words, Esther knew she wanted him.